What's happening, Wargamers? Welcome to another episode of the Dossier, the Marvel Crisis Protocol show, where we talk about the various characters in Marvel Crisis Protocol, their character model, their cards, what they bring to the table, and what sort of places we find them interesting in. Of course, these are not meant to be the in-depth, be-all, end-all discussions. These are just jumping-off points designed for you to kind of get thinking about some characters that you might not otherwise think about, and maybe introduce you to some stuff you'd like to play around with. There's lots of great discussions online that you can find for all these characters. Highly recommend you take a look at them. And of course, none of these are possible without the wonderful support of the patrons. If you would like to support the channel yourself, you can go to patreon.com/AegisBrand Studios. Just a couple bucks a month. It keeps all these coming and allows us to stay current and fresh with all the content. So with this particular video, we are going to be looking at Ursa Major. This is Mikhail Ursus. And yeah, I'll get to my overall opinion in a moment of him. But so as far as the model goes, I mean, dude's a bear. What's not to like about that? I really kind of dig the fact that we got this as a character. I do kind of wish a little bit more was going on with him. His pose is, it's okay. He's got a little bit of forward momentum to it. One thing that's really nice though is that a lot of the fur does have some mold into it. So basically there is some raised textures that you can attack, like get a dry brush on, just something you can work with here. Now in this particular model, you can see I used a lot of wash, some contrast and all this sort of stuff. So you can see where like the depths are. It could use a little bit more picking up. But otherwise, I mean, there's not really a whole lot to say about the model. I like it because it's a bear, but that's really about it. I don't think it's one of their best models. I think it's a little safe, a little timid. Uh, but yeah, I mean, what more can you really do with a bear, I guess, is kind of what you come down to. Oh, whoops, moving the light here. So what about the character himself? What does his card do for you? So Ursa Major, he's got 7 stamina. He's a short mover, size 3, 4 threat, 3/3/4 for his defenses, which again, really nice to see that mystic defense there. 3/3 on his physical and energy. It feels a little rough on a 4 threat character, but it is what it is. At least he does have the stamina, 7 stamina on both sides of his card to really make him stay in the fight a little bit longer. But that short movement is a little bit problematic, even on the medium-sized base. For his attacks, he's got a physical barehanded slap, range 2, 5 dice. It is a builder, so you're going to gain power equal to damage dealt, and it has a wild bleed. So it's okay, but on a short movement, the range 2 attacks on short movement always has me a little concerned because I always feel like it takes way too long to get them to where they need to be. We also have another physical attack, Bare Armed Brawler. Again, range 2, 7 dice for 3 power. Before damage is dealt, if the target character is size 4 or less, they can throw the character short. So it's nice to have that built-in throw that does not have any triggers short of just attack them. And in addition, it also throws a stagger onto it. So it's actually a really solid attack, but that range 2 makes it very difficult to get him into a position where he can actually take advantage of that attack. And that's going to be overall like the recurring problem I have with this particular character. He does have a 2 power charge, so it's the action you make a move action followed by an attack. It's really nice, but it's not online till turn 2 unless you have a way of like putting power onto him. And unfortunately, because he has that short move, like it's a little bit more difficult to get that initial power to use it regularly. Like I feel like you kind of do the charge into the barehanded slap and then hope that you get enough power for the bare armed brawler or something like that. So it's not bad by any means. I like it, but it's just it's not quite enough to really make me like Ursa Major as a result. He also has Ursine Temper, which is an active power for 3. Choose an interactive terrain feature size 3 or less within range 2. Throw it medium. Medium length throw, gotta love it. Size 3, very useful. I find that's what I tend to use most of his power on when I have him is throwing stuff around. Then he's got the innate ability Aggressive, so that's whenever he suffers damage, he can advance short towards the attacking character. This sounds great on paper. It sounds like a great way of getting him up the board. The problem is that because he has that natural short movement and he's all range 2 attacks, it's very easy to ignore him. If you don't have a way of getting him up the table, it's very easy to just not put attacks into him. So he's not getting those aggressive movements. He's not getting the power to charge more often or use more of his kit. Like, he doesn't have a lot that he's spending power on, but unfortunately he doesn't have a lot of opportunity to generate that power as well. So where he's really going to like excel is if you can put him in a position where he can either get extra movement or get extra power to take advantage of his charge and its throws. So that's kind of where he comes down to. Now he does have a tactics card. I'm not going to go too much into it. Basically, it's Bear Hug. It's when somebody advances away from him, he can do that ability, and it has a chance of stopping him. It's not great. It's not a very good card. So where does that kind of leave us with Ursa Major himself? Well, unfortunately, he's one of those characters that I don't even feel like he's really terribly good within Winter Guard. Now, it used to be that because there was only the 4 affiliated models, you had to take him in Winter Guard. Otherwise, like, you were just kind of SOL a lot of the time, or you had to take Darkstar. That's become a little bit easier now that they have a couple more affiliated characters. So what about outside of Winter Guard? Where does he kind of work? Well, I mean, you could play around with him and say in Sam Spam, give him an extra way of moving around whenever one of your characters goes down. Alternatively, a Malkith Cabal, whenever a character goes down, you move a non-active character. That could be a way of doing it as well. I don't know if that's necessarily enough because that's just a once per round type of movement. It doesn't really get a whole lot to it. So, I mean, what about other things? Maybe pair him with a Nick Fury Senior or a Medusa, where you can get that extra place through Siblings in Arms or Royal Decree. Could be a way of moving him around. X-Men Bump with Storm, maybe. Like the Storm Hop, maybe would be a good way, or even in Midnight Suns with that bump in the night, because he's got that medium sized base, and that extra range 1 bump could really push him up a little bit. But the problem he suffers from is always that movement. It's getting into that range 2. It's so easy for people to kind of get away from him, which is really unfortunate. You really have to try and figure out a way to force the attack. So maybe use a card like Face Me or something like that forces somebody to advance forward and make an attack, and hopefully he's the one who gets punched or something like that, because he has stamina to hold up against an attack like that. And if you're able to then get the aggressive in, it's nice. It allows you to get him a little bit closer and start using his power. Honestly, if he had a more consistent way of getting that charge off or getting in within range, like even if he just had a range 3 attack or something like that, it would feel a lot better, and I think he might actually see a lot more use as a result. But as it stands, it just kind of feels like, in the grand scheme of 4 characters, he's on the lower end of the curve, which is really kind of unfortunate, because I think I mean, not knowing much about him in the comics, I love the concept of a guy who transforms into a bear and just does bear things. I think that's absolutely great. So it's just kind of a shame that he doesn't have a little bit more strength in the game itself. So that's Ursa Major. Hit the comments below. Let me know what you think about Ursa Major, where you think he might work, and if you have any suggestions that kind of get him to work for you. And of course, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Happy wargaming.